There's something very strange going on with the gannets down at Bempton Cliffs this year, and although it shows something that it was and still is an environmental disaster, it could just prove to be the slightest glimmer of hope that may ensure their future in places like these. So I've come down here to take a look for myself and see if I can see any of these strange signs, and I bet you've guessed what it's from. So I am of course talking about bird flu, or H5N1, which has had a terrible effect on places like these. You've probably seen some of the images from Bass Rock. Here they reckon they lost about 80% of the chicks from last year. I mean that's a massive number. But there is a sign, a small sign, that some of these birds are getting over the bird flu and they're fighting it. And that is, usually gannets have these vivid blue eyes. You'll have seen them in all the photographs. There's these really piercing eyes, gives them quite a unique look. And people have started to notice that there's an anomaly in their eyes. So whereas they were blue before, they've now gone a lot darker, almost looking black. And this can affect one, both, or just part of the eyes. There is a bit of good news here, and that's that this discoloration doesn't appear to affect the gannet's vision in any way. So they are continuing to breed, they're continuing to feed, they're finding their mates, they're finding their nests, and seem to be acting as normal. And another plus of this is that it's a real key signifier to people who are doing research on them, to sort of point out how many gannets have had bird flu. And it means it's quite a non-invasive way of actually conducting this survey. They can just look at the gannets, and if they've got discoloration, they know they've had and survived bird flu. So having Bempton, reasonably close to me, it's less than an hour away from where I live, I thought I'd come down and see it for myself and see if I could find any of these birds, see how bad the problem really was. And I came down and didn't really hold out that much hope of getting any of these photographs, but actually one of the first birds I pointed my camera at showed signs of this. Now that isn't to say that every bird I see down here has it, because they don't. But what I've found, and I've only had a limited amount of time down here, is that the birds around the big archy bit down at Bempton Cliffs, they're the ones that are most tightly packed together, and they're the ones that seem to be showing the most sign of it. So it's obviously, spreading quickly down that way because of their proximity to one another. After spending a bit of time down here, and like I say, I've not been down here loads and loads, I've been out here for a few evenings, and I've seen numerous birds that are showing this discoloration, which you can take. I mean, it's very bad that bird flu's here in the first place, like it has really gone through these colonies, but I've got to take it as a bit of hope that so many of them, I've seen so many of them that are actually getting over it and surviving, and therefore developing immunity. So hopefully this particular variant of bird flu will become less severe for them. But that's the signifier for those. The other species, not quite so sure about. So you've got the razorbills, puffins down here, and puffins in particular, their numbers are already decreasing. So who knows what that will mean for them. And this is by no means over yet either. This is a problem that continues, and unfortunately the spread is helped by intensive sort of bird farming, really. That's a real spreader of it, and it's now spread to mammals as well. So here's hoping that some sort of immunity does develop and that these populations can recover from it, because places like Bempton Cliffs are glorious, and to lose that would be, not worth thinking about really. So once I'd got a few shots of these gannets, I thought it was time. I always seem to end up concentrating on the gannets when I come down here, and there's so much more to photograph. And historically I've never had a lot of joy with puffins. I've had a few. I spent the night down here and I'd just about located some, and it started getting dark, and I was trying to get them in flight, and I was fighting the light, and my camera didn't have enough to quite get it sharp, so I got a few fruitless shots of puffins in flight that aren't good enough quality really. They're a bit blurry and a bit not sharp, but I came down again and just probably got the best picture of a puffin I ever have got, and it was just perched on a shelf minding his own business, and it was just a nice clear shot. He wasn't overly active, he was just chilling out in the sun, but it was my best puffin shot to date, I think. Yeah, after that I decided I'd have a concentrate on the razorbills as well, because these often get overlooked when you come down here. Well, they did with me anyway. I was watching something the other day and someone had put up a picture of a razorbill, and they asked someone for an ID because they thought it was a lost penguin, and to begin with I laughed, but they, you know, when you sort of take it out of context, and if you don't see them very often, I'm lucky enough to live near here so I do see them quite often, actually they do look like a penguin, and that changed the way I looked at them really. I was kind of a bit more fascinated with them and spent a bit of time with them, and actually when you're watching them for a little while, they've got real characters. And I found these two on a shelf who are obviously a couple together, and the sort of tenderness they were showing each other was just fascinating to watch, and I ended up with this really nice series of shots of them just doing their sort of beaking together and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, they're certainly a characterful little species that I'll probably be concentrating on a little bit more. So there you go. You know, it's important that we sort of look at these things and think about them, and think about how we act, you know, to help our wildlife basically. It's a bit unknown why this thing happens to the gannet's eyes. It's thought that, you know, it's a byproduct of them fighting the disease, so whether the body starts to attack itself where there is bits of the bird flu left or whatever, I don't know. I mean, I'm no scientist, I'm just going off all the information that I could find online, and it's still quite unclear at the minute. But, you know, yeah, like I say, just I hope you've, you know, although it's been a bit of a downer, I hope you've found the images that I've taken to be, you know, nice to look at, enlightening, and a reminder that these species that are here on our coastline are actually really quite special, and we need to do something to make sure that they're still here for future generations. I want my kids to be able to come here and have as much joy watching these as I do. Anyway, that's it for this one. So we'll see how this develops in the future, but until next time, happy shooting in the good way, obviously. Please, if you enjoyed this video, if you found it interesting, please do like and subscribe. It means a lot to me, and it helps the channel to grow a bit, which is what I'm trying to concentrate on at the moment. Yeah, and you know, keep on being wild, keep on loving the wildlife, and let's do our best that we can to protect it. Until next time, see ya.